Hey everybody, video here for you today. But first, the Q&A video I made yesterday, there is some clips that I did not include in that, and there is still some questions I want to go over, so I will be making a part 2, maybe within the week, a follow-up to that video, but there is still some questions I want to go over, and there are some clips I've already recorded that I did not use in that video, so I just want to say there will be a part 2 to that video coming out. And also, I just want to say thanks to the messages I've received since I put that video out yesterday. Very cool, very cool. Offers to record some ancient sites and send me the video footage and other things. I just appreciate that a lot. But today, I'm going to be talking about a place I haven't talked about yet, and this is very important. It's a very, very ancient site coming from really almost 10,000 years ago. And I would not be afraid to push the dating of this originally when this place got going to about 10,000 years ago. But this is called Çatalhöyük in Turkey. And I know a lot of you have heard of this. Maybe some of you haven't. But this is where it is located. And this just seems to be a very ancient site, like ancient Haran and Sogmatar and Navali Chori in Turkey. But here is the site, and they have put some roofs over the archaeological places where they are digging in here. And that just seems to be, just to preserve the findings from the elements, I guess. And they have done that at a few more sites, and that has been kind of criticized sometimes, but here it just seems just to protect what was already exposed to the elements for a really, really long time. I'm just trying to get some accurate research done here. But this is where it is located and what it looks like. And this just seems to be an ancient Tepe, a man-made hill just built up over thousands of years of occupation. But here is a look at the Neolithic settlement of Catalhoyuk. And this is just on a mound that seems to be built up over time. A Tepe, just like Sogmatar, and I suppose a little bit like Gobekli Tepe. But you can see here, it's in a plain, up on a mound, and there's flat land all around, and then mountains in the distance all around. So I suppose these people could see anybody approaching from miles around. Maybe why they chose this location in the middle of this plain here, this flat plain. Now, I'm going to come back to Google Earth in just a bit here, but first, just a few things to read. Now, this is Ancient Origins, and this is a look inside of a home at Çatalhöyük. And here they have horns really embedded in rock, kind of in a decorative thing in their home. And these homes are pretty remarkable. They're right next to each other. And coming from 9,500 years ago, they are very remarkable if you ask me. It says, the 9,500-year-old honeycomb city of Çatalhöyük. Overlooking the Canyon Plain in Turkey lies the remarkable and unique city of Çatalhöyük, the largest and best preserved Neolithic site found to date. At a time when most of the world's people were nomadic hunter-gatherers, Çatalhöyük was a bustling town of as many as 10,000 people. Inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it is known as one of the best sites for understanding human prehistory. Now I will show you what the houses look like in just a second here, but it says, perhaps one of the most bizarre features of the houses is the fact that many of them contain bodies buried in pits under the floor and beneath hearths and platforms. Skeletons were buried in a fetal position, many under raised platforms, which archaeologists believe were covered with reed mats and used as beds. And I will leave the link below, and this is a pretty fascinating article, but I got a few more to get to, but it also says, the mystery of the clay balls. Another strange feature of this unique city is the presence of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands, of baseball-sized clay balls. They are made of a fired clay and appear to have been formed by hand because some of them have got big fingerprints and nail prints in them. They were found within houses and scattered throughout the mound. It says the purpose of the balls is still unclear, with some archaeologists suggesting they had something to do with cooking because they were found with ash deposits, and others proposing that they were used as weapons. However, some of the balls have strange markings in them, which has led some experts to believe that they were used for counting or as some part of some kind of bartering system. Now on this website, I will leave the link below, but it has a good artist rendition of what the city may have looked like. Many houses just built right next to each other with roof accesses, and these are pretty cool. They seem pretty comfortable to me, and they seem a heck of a lot more modern than coming from between maybe 9,000 and 10,000 years ago. It says, one of the largest and best preserved Neolithic sites in the world, Çatalhöyük is located southeast of the modern city of Konya, about 90 miles from Mount Hasan. The ancient settlement was built around 7500 BC, flourished around 7000 BC, and was inhabited for more than 2,000 years. It was discovered in the early 1960s by British archaeologist James MacLeod from the University of Istanbul. Now, there was a mural found in here, and there is some debate on what this represents. It says, from 1961 to 1965, excavations at this site produced a large number of artifacts and ancient structures, including a 10-foot-wide wall painting of the town and 2 peaks, sometimes referred to as the world's oldest map. Some scientists question this interpretation and argue that the mural dating to around 6600 BC is more likely a decorative, geometric design instead of a map, than a painting of a leopard skin instead of 2 peaks. But I guess that is all up for debate, and here is an artist's rendition of what this mural looks like. And what this actually represents is really debatable. But there seemed to have been an eruption of this volcano in ancient times, and maybe that is what they represented here. It says, the lower register of the mural contains about 80 square-shaped patterns tightly arranged like cells in a honeycomb, and its upper register depicts an object that its discoverers initially identified either as a rendering of a mountain with 2 peaks, with the cell-like patterns representing a plan view of a village, with a general layout of the houses similar to that of Catalhoyuk and other nearby Neolithic settlements, or maybe a leopard skin with its extremities cut off. So there is always debate when stuff is found, but here, this could be the world's oldest map of the city and neighboring peaks. Now, this is the Çatalhöyük.com website, and here are some of the things that were found here. And this is an obsidian mirror, and if this wasn't all scratched up, you would be able to see your reflection perfectly. This is a mirror used by people maybe 9,000 years ago. I find that fascinating. Now here is a look at what this mound looks like that Catalhoyuk sits upon. And here is when researchers fired up one of these ovens, and I think they kind of remade one of these homes based on what they found, and they fired up the oven here. But this is just fascinating. I'll give you a better look in just a second here. Now, going back to Google Earth, you can just see a few ruins up on top of this hill, but most is underneath these buildings here. And it would be nice to get a good look around. But, of course, this isn't my first video I've ever made, so why don't we go in and look around. Now, obviously, I found some shareable videos, and I think that is really cool because it gives you a good look around. And they didn't have any narration to them, so I just put them to music. But there is the north facility up here, so we are going to go look around this place too, to set the music, and I'll be back with you in just a second. But that is a good look at the North facility. Now, I just want to read from a website here. Now, here is a website. It says, archaeologists from Stanford find an 8,000-year-old goddess figurine in central Turkey. And this is a figurine that was found at Çatalhöyük, the mother goddess fertility figure here. And it's not that big of an object, and this would have had to have been carved with small, fine tools by an expert craftsman. But these fertility goddess figurines are kind of common, that were found in really old settlements coming from this part of the world. Now, just going on reading here, it says, conventionally associated with the fertility goddess, this figurine is also thought to represent an elderly woman who had risen to prominence in the Catalhoyuk, famously egalitarian society. Hodder, who oversees the Catalhoyuk research project, learned of the discovery early this year when he received a call from Eric Marciniak, a Polish archaeologist whose team had been digging in the southern part of the site when they unearthed the figure. I rushed up to find a group of Polish archaeologists staring down at this white shape that was beginning to appear in the soil, recalled Hodder, who realized immediately that it was a very special find. Excavators had hollowed up a large dwelling where its former occupants had deposited the figurine in platforms built atop earlier structures, and this place has just been built up one on top of the other by different periods of the culture, and it spans, I guess, about 2,000 years. But I find that pretty fascinating. That is a pretty remarkable artifact found. But I will leave the link for this below. This comes from the University of Stanford. There are researchers who are here, archaeologists. And it'd be really cool to talk to one. Well, I think this is my first rodeo. Why don't we go down and talk to Alison Mickle, and she'll tell us a few things that were found at Çatalhöyük.
Okay. This is July 7th, 2014. We're in Building 96. This is Space 370. We've been excavating for about a week now. The excavation begins beyond this line because this is the limit of excavations. We've stepped in for safety reasons. This is a burial sequence that was excavated a lot last year. There were several individuals that came up and several were left exposed from the previous year. So one of the first things that we did this year was to remove one of the individuals that was exposed. That was feature 7012, a burial of a juvenile. And right underneath, there was a burial of a slightly older child. So we're working elsewhere until that becomes stratigraphically free. There are still two other individuals that are visible, but the cuts for their burials are further down. What we've done so far is we've removed most of the floor on that side of the platform and this side of the room. We've come down on this really nice plaster floor that we think is roughly contemporaneous on this side and this side of the platform. The floor extended all the way over the platform. It looked like one construction event. It's difficult to know that we're exactly at the same level with the plaster because they're separated in space, but we think that we're about right there. So this is platform 3508, and that's the one that so many individuals have come out of. On this side, there's several post-retrieval pits that we've been working around that cut the floor, but otherwise it's mostly just makeup and plaster over and over again. Over here we have platform 3507, and that's one of the main goals for the season is to get into this platform and start figuring out the burial sequence here and see if it's as complicated as this gigantic platform. And then over here, there is space 444. We're also hoping to get into this space this year. There were two posts here, and this is a threshold, and there would have been a lintel. So these spaces are actually separated. So next up, we're going to begin working in space 444. And we're also going to start removing this next plaster layer until we can see some cuts for these burials. We'd also like to begin working on the wall painting that's on this side at some point this season.
What did this place look like when these so-called homes were here? And they were homes. Were these primitive people living 9,000 years ago? Or did this look a lot like something we would have seen a couple hundred years ago? Or 500 years ago? Or maybe in some cultures today that are living fairly primitively, but I think this is fascinating. What did these homes look like? Well, of course I'm going to give you a look inside and then kind of overview from above, just briefly. Here we go. Now, I really appreciated finding those shareable videos, and I will leave links for the channels and the videos below. Maybe you people can leave a few comments on there, because some of those videos have not been watched hardly at all, and I think they're excellent. And really, that enables me to give you a great look around. Can't imagine giving you a better look at this place. Maybe if I had a 3D scan view, kind of, that would be cool. But that is a great look at Çatalhöyük. This is a Neolithic site coming from about 10,000 years ago when it first started thriving, according to archaeologists. It lies on a flat plain in present-day Turkey, but we have a lot of sites in this region of the world that seem to be really the birthplace of civilization. Hope you thought that was interesting, and you all have a very nice day.